Welcome to the March version of the Philmont Trek Talk group on Facebook's monthly live chat, where our sole goal is to help you have your best trek possible at Philmont Scout Ranch. And I'll tell you, we got some exciting things to talk about, not the least of which, you know what? I don't want this to be about me. I'm going to make it about people doing cool things for the ranch. We may touch base on where I'm going at the end of the week for session 2 of Phil Break, the big service project week that's happening. They're on session 1 right now. There are actually people there at the ranch doing conservation service projects this week, and then they'll go home Saturday morning, and the second crew will show up Saturday evening and be there for the next week. So that's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to getting out there for that. Freaking out a little bit about winter gear because I'm used to going to Philmont for summer treks. Let's see. There we go. Had to check, make sure that wasn't a note from someone trying to get in. And it was Rob saying he wasn't going to make it tonight. So we'll have to see if we can get by without him. Let's see. Let's go around the horn, do our introductions as we usually do. Give people time to filter in since the notification should have gone out now that we are up and running. So, hi, I'm Jeff. I'll be your tour guide this evening. And let's see. I am the former skipper of Sea Scout Ship 4019 in Burlington, North Carolina, and have been to Philmont once as a youth, 4 times as an adult. Well, on treks, once as a youth, 4 times as an adult. And I feel like I'm scratching the surface. I'm starting to understand Philmont a little bit. I don't think I will ever catch up to all the things this guy has seen and done at Philmont. And for that, Mark, how would you describe yourself in Philmont terms?
Well, I was on staff all of the 80s. And I've also done, I had to count this up last month for Caitlin's podcast. I believe the number is 27 treks.
Wow.
And other things. And I'm a life PSA member, and Philmont's just been a big part of my life since I went there when I was 14 years old, 47 years ago now. So you do the math.
Okay, so before we get to Sal, I know Sal's wanting to talk, and I don't want to say he looks Neanderthalish, but he's worked really hard to learn how to speak. So I don't want to interrupt with that. But I'm actually not sure your mic's working, Sal. Are you able to hear him, Mark?
I'm not able to hear.
Sal. I'm not hearing him. All right. Well, we'll talk amongst ourselves while Sal gets his mic working. Oh, yeah. I was going to show something on the other screen real quick, and once I get that up, I will share a link because sometimes you run into like a podcast live stream type thing where they're very self-promotional and they don't want to talk about anyone else, but we actually like some of the other stuff that goes on, so we promote the what do they call them? The live things, that the live Zoom calls that Philmont does. They're preparedness seminars, which there's one coming up on the 19th, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not saying I'm going to try to photobomb that while I'm out there at Philmont while they're doing their live stream. I would never admit to that in front of everyone here on camera, but who knows, maybe you want to watch that and see if anything interesting happens. But we also like people like Caitlin, who does the Silver on the Stage podcast. So you mentioned being on there. I wanted to drop a link out there, so if anyone wants to go check that out, they can. I wonder if we are hitting all the different places we're supposed to be live right now. Okay, there we go. I didn't see, when I dropped the comment, I didn't see it spread out to as many places as we would have expected it to. So let's see if we scroll here a little bit. I want to see where we can find your episode here.
Oh, I'm not on there yet.
You're not on there yet? Okay. Well, if it's,
it might have been such a bad interview, she might not put me on. I don't know.
Oh, whatever. I'm sure it's going to be gripping. I can't wait to listen to it. And now we got the link out there straight to the podcast page if anyone wants to check that out. Let's see. Sal, is your mic working yet? Sal has never sounded so good. So let's see. We'll stop sharing that screen. And if you, on your little mic control, you're down by the mute button, there's a down arrow. If you click on that, you ought to be able to see what your audio input is set as, Sal. Maybe you just need to change it to like your earbuds or something. Yeah, I don't know. You can play with that. So if it doesn't work, maybe you leave and close your browser and come back in, and maybe it'll work then. I don't know. So let's see. Things that we want to talk about. So everyone knows what their trek is going to be now. And by the way, Darrel sent us a note that he's having computer issues and hopes to join us soon. So everyone, you know what your itinerary is going to be if you're on if you're queued up for a 2025 summer trek. And right when I mentioned Darrel's coming, he shows up, or at least Darrel's forehead is here. Maybe we'll get the whole upper section of Darrel. There we go. Look at that. And is Sal's mic working yet? Oh, it looks like maybe it isn't. I'm telling you, it is likely on the little arrow, the little tiny arrow beside the mute button at the bottom, in between mute and stop video. If you click that and then look at your audio input at the top, there's a little drop down, and you're probably on the wrong audio input. If not, I have no idea, and I do apologize, but I promise I have not muted you this time, Sal. Darrel, how you doing?
Nope. Can you hear me?
Oh, Sal's here. I heard him.
You heard?
Sorry. All right. He's with us.
How about now?
Yep.
Am I with you now?
Yep.
Hey, the techno peasant fixed it. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, everyone's here and working. That's amazing. So welcome.
Well, good.
We
Thank you.
finished the introductions. We got Mark and
you
I.
missed me.
Sal and Darrel can do your introductions.
Okay, I'll let Mr. T go first.
I don't know. Can you hear me, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just had an incident. I walked upstairs and dropped my laptop. Had to grab my backup. Anyways, we're live.
We are.
Okay. Anyways, Darrel Tadsen, Greater St. Louis Area Council. Participant for a number of years, advisor for a number of years, and I want to go back to Philmont.
Yeah, don't we all?
We all. Sal Porto, Greater Tampa Bay Area Council, Philmont lead advisor, leading our cruise again this year for my 10th trek. Troop 212 Assistant Scoutmaster, owner operator of Suncoast Wilderness First Aid. I'm coming to you from Davie, Florida, where I'm teaching wilderness first aid to the U.S. Geological Surveys guys down at the Everglades.
Interesting.
Yes, it's fun teaching U.S. Geologicals.
Wow. So let's see. I wanted to show. Here we go. That's what I was looking for. Suncoast Wilderness First Aid. Because I try to be sure that anyone who comes on has a site they want shared, that we give them a little bit of promotion, because why not? I also, I should also mention that the Suncoast Wilderness First Aid is featured prominently in an article I wrote a month or two ago about where to find, what did I call it? Something about where to find wilderness first aid training, where to get wilderness first aid training. That's what it's called. I'm going to copy that link and drop it in the chat here. So if anyone wants to go check that out, if you haven't got your wilderness first aid yet and you can make it to Florida to train with Sal, Please do that. If that doesn't
Or-
work for you logistically, there are lots. Like, I was blown away at the number of places that I found that are approved by Scouting America to get wilderness first aid training. So seriously, it's more than I thought by a pretty big stretch.
And if you live in Florida and you need wilderness first aid, contact you. I do travel. I mean, I've been everywhere from Port St. Joe to the Dry Tortugas.
Wow.
So Dry Tortugas for 4 days is fun.
Yeah, so we got lots and lots and lots of different places listed here where you can get your wilderness first aid training, and then and also a plug for the I should put the link in here. North American Rescue apparently has sold enough of the backpacking first aid kit that was the collaboration between Sal at Suncoast Wilderness First Aid, my publication Gear Report, and North American Rescue. Initially, they said, well, until we sell some, we're not going to put it on the website. We're just going to make, people have to call to get it. But now apparently they have added it to the North American Rescue website. So apparently it's been a good enough seller that they invested to make it available more readily. So I'm pretty stoked about that as well. If anyone needs a crew first aid kit, that is not a personal first aid kit. That is a crew first aid kit. If anyone needs one, feel free to check it out.
All you have to add is your over-the-counter drugs.
And I thought at one point they said that initially it was put out without the OTC stuff, and then they got approval within their internal structure, like their legal structure at the company said, no, we can do that. So check if you have questions about that, check with North American Rescue and see what they have. I know the prototype that I got and the one that Sal got, we didn't have those, but after we got those is when I thought I heard that they were making that available. All right.
I can let you know as we talk because I have one of the new ones.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
I just ordered some more new ones, so just to see what happens. Let me find it.
Sure. Do you sell those at your training?
Yeah, I do. I have people, they can order them. What I do when I do training, I do offer a scout discount. So it's cheaper than on the website.
Nice.
No, there is no over the counter. They've added more bandages to it than that we used to have. We upped the bandages, but we still left out the over the counter drugs.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Is.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Amazing. I probably need to get one of the new ones.
So I just ordered a couple of them just to have them.
Yeah. So
they are pretty cool.
On Mr. T's agenda, we had a couple things to talk about. And for all the folks out there, we have a chat section down where you can leave comments, you can ask questions. This show is going to be far more informative and interesting and targeted to your needs if you let us know what they are. If you have questions or comments and you'd like to interact with us, please do that. Now, we do understand that we get way more views and replay afterwards, but for the folks who are watching us live, please let us know where you're from. If you've been to Philmont, if you're going to Philmont, if you already have it scheduled or you're just, interested in going again, we'd love to know what you're doing and how we can better help you prepare for that. And to help us get there, Mr. T does our agendas for each one of these. He had a couple things for us to talk about. One is, now that you know your itinerary for 25, how do you go about leading your crew and understanding, attacking, planning, and preparing for that trek, the actual hike with your crew? So what do you guys think at this point in the year? I mean, we're January, February, March, April, May, June. We've only got a few months before the first crews start showing up. Where should people be at this point? What should they be doing to make sure their crew's ready and that we've got, youth leadership and not the adults and all that kind of things?
Well, I would say at this
time, where I was headed with this.
Oh, we lose Mr.
Sal, go
T.
ahead, and then Darrel
Yeah.
can clarify.
Yeah. What I think Darrel's going to say is what I think, because we talked about it. You should already have probably your 3 top crew leader, your religious guide, your wilderness guide, that they should be picked and selected. And the way I do it, I'm sure most crews do it now. Any practice hikes should be run by that crew leader. Practice hikes, practice campouts, everything. Treat it like a Philmont. The only thing I do, I pick the location, and that's about it. And the crew leader does everything else. He sends out the emails. I work with him and say, here's where we're going, blah, blah, blah. You tell everybody what time to be there and how many miles we're going to do. You run the whole, either the hike or the whole weekend. That's your job. You tell the adults what we need from us. I try to treat everyone from now on as, well, we've been doing it for a couple months, as a Philmont. Once we had the crew leader, treat it like a trek. Let them start leading, and keep the adults out as much as you can, which is the hardest thing to do.
Keep the adults out of the leadership part, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, but it's a very good point, because if you establish that during your pre-trek meetings and shakedowns, it's a whole lot easier to make sure it actually happens when you get on the trail. I mean, we've all seen where the ranger walks up to meet the crew, like maybe it's at the welcome center, or maybe it's over by the umbrellas at the headquarters building, but they walk up and say hi, and here comes the advisor putting their hand out to introduce himself, and the ranger is very tactfully trying to redirect to, thank you, but I'm actually here to talk to the crew leader, and that's who I'm going to interact with. So that's a whole lot easier. I mean, have we all seen the crew leader that looks like, deer in the headlights, that someone's actually talking to them and expecting them to make a decision, as well as, the adults that look shell shocked, like, how rude, not talking to me, because they didn't practice the dynamic of, youth crew leadership beforehand.
Of course, yeah, because you want, like you said, you want, as soon as possible, you want to set that guideline that here's my crew leader, let him run it.
Yeah.
It's his show. I mean, the adults, because we travel by plane and bus, so I tell them that's kind of where the adults step in. We make sure we all get on the plane, we all get on the bus, but once we jump off that bus at Philmont, no more. It's run by the youth. And the other thing you might want to do is start doing mini shakedowns. If you're doing an overnighter, shakedown 3 or 4 days before you go, or a week before you go, do a shakedown. Treat it like a Philmont shakedown. Look at what they're doing and what they want to bring and what they shouldn't bring. Example, we're going to Georgia, and I had people bring in bear spray. And I looked at it and said, you don't need that at Philmont, trust me. So, and we had 10 bottles of mosquito spray. So you have to get them into that mindset. You only need 2, you don't need 12, and stuff like that. So
one for each hand. So
I don't know that I had one of the dads bring in exactly 12 sets of clothing. He wanted a new set of clothing for every day. I told him, no, you get 2 shirts, 2 pants. That's all you need. He looked at me like I was crazy, but that's okay. But I am, so I don't care. What do you think, Mr. T? Oh,
The family size
Absolutely,
is
where I headed with the suggestion about the itineraries was, as the adult advisor, I'm sure that every adult has sat down by themselves and reviewed the itinerary and so forth, rather than just showing up at Philmont and here we are to hike. What I was trying to do was make sense out of the itinerary. How do you tame that itinerary? And how do you plan every day, every section of the trek? And I mean, you can't be an advisor if you haven't done your research or have previous experience or relative experience. So I was looking at saying, how do you make sense of this itinerary and what's it going to take? You know, how do you do this? You know, sit down with a map.
I think his backup computer's fighting him a little bit. It looks like so,
Yeah,
but I think we got
it
the
is.
gist of it. So Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, Sal hit the nail on the head. You need to have, if you got the time, do a couple weekender overnighters with the crew. Try to run it Philmont style, and even some of the, if not necessarily Philmont meals, but cooking Philmont style, and doing all those things so that when you get there, it becomes second nature to the crew already off the top. Really, it gives you a chance to really pare down, not bringing the huge family size toothpaste, but the smaller tubes, learning to possibly share certain items between tent mates or something. There's a lot of ways to cut weight. And I'm a chair guy. I'm willing to suck up 2 pounds to have my chair, but I give up other things. And it gives you a chance to figure out what works for you. But you're gonna learn how to pack your pack, where you want things, where things go, all those things on doing some. And the most important thing I've always said is on these shakedown hikes, you might want to play some games on how fast we can set up camp. How fast can we tear down camp? I've seen too many crews spend multiple hours in the morning just dilly-dallying when they could be hiking and getting someplace, and they miss out on a program opportunity later because things add up during the day on the hike, and they end up getting in an hour too late to do this or that or the other thing. And that's the whole fun about going to Philmont, is the programs at the camps once you get there.
That
Yeah,
is
absolutely. That's something we've talked about here many times, is the idea that if you just want to hike big miles, then what's the point of Philmont? Like really the program opportunities, the unique atmosphere, all of the support, those are the extra, things that allow people who haven't backpacked a lot to be successful at Philmont. So if you need those things, then go there. But maybe the people pushing for, let's do every mile that we can, miles. I don't know. To me, they're kind of missing the point. And I say that because I was one of those people for a long time. And eventually I was like, wait a second, we're just breezing past everything and not really getting the experience. There's so much you can do there. And to your point, and I think it's what Sal said as well, of things you can do to prep. You don't have to go out and camp for 5 days to get the experience of setting up and breaking camp 5 times. You can do that in a couple hours. You can do that on a weekend behind your scout hut or in front of it. I don't know, whatever works for you, or someplace else, in someone's yard. Everyone hikes into the yard in a line as if they are a crew arriving at camp, and makes a pack line and gets everything out for the bear bags, and it sets up tents in the designated area and sets up the fly, and does all the things that you would normally do, gets all the food and things together as if you're going to cook a meal. And then maybe you look around and see what went well and what didn't. And then you do the opposite and pack it up and hike out of the yard again and maybe make a lap around the house. And when you get back to the yard, you do it again. And that will really help to help the crew learn. Everyone has to learn how to organize their pack so they can get to the things quickly, so they know where everything's going to be. It makes it easier to pack it, easier to unpack it. And everyone has to learn what their tasks are when they get to camp and when they're leaving camp, so that you become this well-oiled machine. And that's when I've seen whole crews wake up and be on the trail in as little as 37 minutes. But typically the first few days, I'm going to say 2 to 3 hours. What do you guys think is typical for a crew?
It depends on your crew.
Sure.
It depends on your crew, and depending if your crew if they know each other. Like if you're like I do mostly all contingent. So if you have a contingent that half the boys know each other, they kind of work better. If it's and depending also depends on how many shakedown camp outs you've done. If you only have done one, you don't know each other's idiosyncrasies. But if you've done 3 or 4, that, hey, you know what to do, what to expect, who's faster, who's slower. I always tell my youth is we get up at 5 o'clock at Philmont. That's 7 o'clock in Florida. What time do you get up for school? Most of them say 6:30, 6 o'clock. Okay, you're already up anyway, so keep on going. So it's not like you're getting up any earlier. And I try to tell them it's an hour. You haven't your first day or two, if you can get out in an hour, that's great. And then start working on getting it. How much of that hour can I cut off that time? And I think the other thing is, where are you going to eat breakfast? I like to eat breakfast. I like to eat breakfast an hour out. You're going to take a break anyways. If you stop for breakfast before you hike, that's 20, 30 minutes. You're going to be sitting there eating breakfast. That's 20, 30 minutes you can be hiking. So I'm the person that says, let's try to hike for an hour, hour and a half. Then we're going to stop for 20 minutes and eat breakfast. So, but again, that's me. Again, I don't tell the crew we do that, but I kind of suggest to the crew leader, this is the reason why I like to do it, why we should do it. So some crew leaders don't want to do it. Some want to eat breakfast at camp. Okay, we'll eat breakfast at camp. But some of them will take notice and figure out why we want to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if this year there's going to be any cooked breakfasts. That might be the only reason to stay in camp.
Yeah. Yep. Last year I think there was one. I think it was biscuits and gravy again. But what we did for that one is they opted to eat that for breakfast. I mean for lunch. So they ate a cold breakfast, and we stopped and had a longer lunch on the trail, like breakfast for a lunch. And that was that. So that was up to them.
Family Man CO. I'm not sure if that's company or Colorado or what. I saw a scout dump his entire pack looking for sunscreen on the last day at Philmont. Practice packing your pack and know where things are in your pack. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Definitely.
Yeah, and everybody has a. Go ahead.
I go even further. Most hiking shorts have these nice baggy pockets, and I always keep like some of those essentials, like sunscreen for the day, chapstick, possibly a lighter, a flashlight, and all-purpose paper, because you never know when the urge might hit you. That way you don't have to bug the whole crew to find out who's got the big huge roll. You've already got enough paper there to make a couple transactions, and you're good on your own. And you've got it on your person, and it's always there.
You're prepared for anything, whether you have the next big business idea and you just need to write it down, or you have some other business to do.
Right.
You're ready. Man. So, well, let's talk about something though. Since you said put stuff in your pockets, you better also make it part of your habit to check your pockets. Make that part of your routine when you walk into the campsite. And that's something where I personally recommend that everyone has to have a buddy. When you do anything within Scouting America, you have to have a buddy. So one of your buddy duties at Philmont is to check with your buddy before the bear bags go up, before the oops bags go up, and say, hey, did you empty all your pockets? Did you get all your smellables? Did you get them out of your hip pocket in your backpack? Did you get them out of your pockets in your pants? Any place, figure out where your buddy keeps their smellable stuff and ask him about it.
Well, it goes in a ditty bag at night, and that ditty bag comes down first thing in the morning, and then you resupply and you move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what I found out is they keep stuff in their pockets, like Jeff said, that somebody keeps something in the pockets, they're gonna forget it's in their pocket. Oops bag is up, and I'm sure it's happened to all of us. Hey, guess what? I left this in my pocket. What are you gonna do with it?
It's happened to me. I've done it. I'm not even going to blame other people on this one.
Oh, yeah. Well, I tell people, if you left it in your pocket, it's just going to be you and your tent buddy are going to go take that oops bag down, put your stuff back in, and put it back up. So unless you don't want to do it twice, practice.
When I was on Rayado, my ranger left a bag of M&Ms in his backpack. And as we were walking across the meadow to hang the bear bags, a bear appeared on our camp and totally dismantled the side pocket of his pack. And in the meantime, we scurried over and got our bear bags hung, and the bear came over just after we had completed that because he had the distraction of the M&Ms and tried to get our bear bags. And it was entertaining, but could have been a whole different situation. But again, and that's a seasoned staff member making the oops, I forgot those.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it looks like Brett has joined us. I'm not sure if he's got a camera, but I thought it was ironic that as soon as we start talking about stuff being left in pockets and bear procedures, guess who shows up, right? So, and I haven't seen her. Oh, there he is. He's coming. All right, I dropped an article in the chat and up on the screen for how to organize your pack since we were talking about that. But let me get that off the screen so we can see everyone a little better. Welcome back to the program, Mr. Brett Johnson.
What things? Go ahead. Jeff. No, I was going to say what things impact your morning routine and the ability to get out of camp at a reasonable time. I mean,
what things?
I don't disagree with Sal, getting up at 5 o'clock and getting going, but what can an advisor reasonably expect the functions to be to get up in the morning and get on the trail?
Well, every crew is different, and and how I run with mine is I make sure I buy my crew leader a travel alarm clock. That way I know he has one, and I have one, he has one. And what I tell him is, okay, you get up, if we're getting up at 5, you're up at 4:45, I'm up at 4:45. First one up wakes the other one. You take care of the youth, I take care of the adults. So, and then we go for, and one thing that we do is, I've learned over the years is before we go to bed, and if we don't think we're going to need it, we drop a rain fly. We don't we take it down before we go to bed. You don't need it up at night. It's like Darrel we're talking yesterday. Your rain fly is going to get dew on it. Now it's going to be wet when you try to pack it in the morning.
Yep.
You're in your tent. If it rains, you're fine. You've got your rain gear in your tent. You're fine. If it's raining in the morning, then worry about that when you wake up in the morning. But if you don't need the dining fly in the morning, why do you leave it up?
Yeah. So I think to the question of what things help you as a crew to get out, to me, it's really kind of two things. Number one is the sense of urgency that sometimes people haven't, sometimes they just don't. And that is something that has really been striking to me, where, it has occurred to me how I just kind of wake up. I guess I've done it enough that I wake up and like, I know that we are in a hurry. So I am pushing, and I'll look around and I'm like, why is no one moving like they have a purpose? Like they got all day when we're trying to get moving. So I think that if you're trying to prep a crew, one of the things that you can do is help instill in your crew leader this idea that, everyone's tired and needs their sleep. We don't need to get up and casually get going. Sleep as long as you can, and then get ready with a purpose and get out. Like you could get up 2 hours earlier and take your time getting ready, but that's an hour of sleep that you lost, or 2 hours of sleep you lost. I'd rather sleep as late as I can and then get ready with a purpose. But that's not going to happen if you don't set that expectation, or your crew leader doesn't set that expectation. And then number two is, and this applies to any task, I think, if the crew leader hasn't let everyone know what they're expected to do, not just like setting the sense of urgency, but here's the duty roster. You guys have got the bear bag in the morning, and you've got this and you've got that, and make assignments so people know they got to get up and get their personal stuff done. And then here's what they have to do from a crew standpoint. And then if you have direction and a sense of urgency, that's when you can get some efficient camp breaking. But without either one of those, I think you're kind of like, it's not going to happen.
Right, but
True.
what are some of those functions that I'm trying to lead this? What are some of the functions that you have to accomplish in the morning?
Yeah,
that are, everything you do is going to eat up time.
sure.
One of the things I notice with our crew is, what is the distance from where we're camped to the bear rope? Some camps you're right next to them. Some there, could be a quarter mile away. And by the time you get over there, drop the bags, drop your ropes, roll them up, get them back, that all takes time. And when you say hiking, I look at that as, when am I actually on the trail? Not, are you in a trail camp or a staff camp? If you're in campsite 33 at Cimarroncito, you're 15 minutes from the trail, even before you get started, because at a staff camp, you're also supposed to go by and sign out, so at the cabin. These things all take time. You drop the bear bag back at camp. Is this your first day with a full load of food? I mean, there's going to be more time wasted taken deciding who's going to carry what, because there's so much laying there.
Well, that all depends on how they deal with it. Not to interrupt you, but this is a discussion I have with crews often. Is, everyone's taking their time trying to pick out what food they're carrying, and I pick up my bag that has my food already in it, organized, and drop it in my bag. And eventually they'll be like, how are you doing that so fast? I'm like, because I don't dump it out every day. Like, why would I do that? You sort it once at the commissary when they give it to you. You have to inventory it, make sure you have everything, sort it into meal buddies, put each one in a bag, put a label on it. Now you never have to dump that bag again. You just grab that container.
Right.
Yeah.
It's however you organize that, but it's going to take some time to do that, and so forth. How much daylight do you have? If you're getting up dark 30, as opposed to decent light, it's going to take the crew a little longer to sort that stuff and get it into their packs.
Another thing is, crew leaders can assign specific crew gear to one person. That way we're not arguing over who's taking this, who's taking this, who's taking this.
Right. You
Yeah,
get
It's the same person every day.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they
Same.
just
Whatever you
share the
carry on
load.
day one. Yeah, whatever you carry on day one, you carry on day 10. You don't
Yeah.
flip it around.
Yeah.
And
What
to double thing on what Darrel said about if your bear bags are a quarter mile away, as opposed to sending the same two tent buddies to go get that bear bag, only send one tent buddy and another tent buddy. So while those two are gone, the tent buddies that are left can be dropping the tent.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you send the same two tent buddies to get the bear bags, their tent's you're gonna have to have somebody else go do it for them, or it's gonna sit there until they come back. So send two different tent buddies to go get the bear bags. Makes it a little faster.
Yeah.
Another factor I see crews waste a lot of time on in the morning is water.
Oh yeah.
You know, packing up, or we have to send somebody a half hour down the road to go get water someplace when that could have been done the night before, or most of your water could have been done the night before.
No, we try to do water the night before we go to bed. You're not getting water in the morning. You're not going to get water in the morning because we got to get moving. So if you need water, you get it before you go to bed because it's just going to sit there. So usually like after supper, maybe we'll do a water run. Go fill, if you need 4 Nalgene's or 4 whatever for tomorrow, fill them up now. And then in the morning, they go in the fire ring and you're ready to go in the morning.
Yeah. I think those are great points that people who've never been and haven't really thought through this, it's like, it's obvious to us because we've done it a bunch, but if you've never been through this, like it can take a week to figure all these things out. And some people I've seen people who've been on multiple treks haven't figured some of this stuff out. So, and I think that's part of the value of these discussions is, each of us learns something every time we go out there and we have an opportunity to share with people. So I do want to interrupt everyone. And I already said welcome to Brett, but since you joined midstream, you missed the introduction part. So we've all introduced ourselves. I want to give you a chance since you hadn't been with us for a while. Oh, can't hear you.
Oh, he's like me.
Yep, coach him, Sal. You figured yours out.
I just kept hitting buttons. That's my coaching.
It looks like it's probably on a phone. I don't know where the controls are on a phone. On a computer, by the mute button, there's a little arrow that you can click that gives you like a drop down or pop up menu, and you can select which microphone, which audio input you're using. And that's usually what the problem is someone's just on the wrong audio input. I'm not sure where that is on if you came into a phone.
I did. Oh, the other thing while we're waiting for him to figure out is try, if you do a shakedown hike or a camp out, try to teach the youth to, as you pack stuff like your sleeping bag, you put in your bag and you put it to the outside if it's not raining. So as you pack your gear up, you throw it out of the tent and the last thing out is you. That makes sense. You don't want to do your sleep bag, walk it all the way to your backpack, put it in and walk back and forth. Takes, as you pack things up like your pillow, your sleep bag, and change your clothes, put them outside your tent.
What's one way to do it? Certainly. But I think that that specifically is less important. That whether you are out or your stuff is out is less important than the idea. Don't get up and get out and go to the bathroom and go look for breakfast and get the bear bag and then come back, deal with your tent. Like when I wake up, as soon as I set up, everything is with the purpose, right? When I open my sleeping, well, for me, it's not open a sleeping bag. When I pull my quilt back, I don't let go of it. I keep my hand on it and I grab the stuff sack and stuff it in the stuff sack. And then, I've just gotten up from my pillow. I'm going to deflate my pillow and put that in the stuff sack. Like, I'm not wasting time. I'm not dilly-dallying. I am packing things as I use them and setting them by the door. So when I get out, I can grab my bag and bring it over and take stuff from in the tent straight into the bag. It never touches the dirt, so I'm not getting dirt in my bag. But the point being, everything you do is with a purpose. And that's how you get things done more quickly, I think, is to be cognizant of that.
Yep, I agree.
All right. So I'll reiterate for all the folks out there following along live, like Family Man Colorado, who asked a question or made a comment earlier. This can be interactive if you like. Ask your questions, make your comments. Let us know what kind of things you are worried about if you have an upcoming trek, what kind of things you've learned you want to share with people, what questions you have for things that maybe we do have a little bit of experience on the panel here. I'd say I know we're well over 50, 60. Boy, I don't know how many Brett's done, but we got to be pushing 70, 75 treks or more on the panel. With me likely being the very least at 4.5 or what? Yeah, I almost got half done on the last one before I got a suburban ride.
You summited.
I did. Yeah,
We'll give you the half.
Yeah. It wasn't enough to get the patch. I know that.
Oh man.
Yeah. But
you can buy one. You can buy one eBay.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty confident if I were to walk into the right person's office on the ranch and say, "Come on," that they'd be like, "Yeah, okay." But I'm one of those people. It's kind of like, if I earned it, they'd give it to me. But 5 days in, and I have enough of them already. It's not hurting me.
How do you
go ahead?
How do you work with the crew leader and the crew on the day's hike? I mean, you have certain obligations, if you will, deadlines that you need to be somewhere at some time. How do you kind of back into that to decide, what time you gotta be out of camp? I mean, I agree with Sal, 5 o'clock and get up and we're gone by 6 or 6:15, but what are things that influence your hiking along the trail?
We try to, and this is just my experience, is we have the roses and buds and thorns and stuff at night.
Right.
We'll take a moment during that time when the entire crew is there to discuss the next day's itinerary and where we're going and what our, when we want to be whereby or when we need to be whereby. If you got like cons or something like that, or horse rides or any of those scheduled programs, you show up late, you're just not going to get to do it.
Right.
Or you don't get your cons and you don't get your arrowhead. And, if there's an extenuating circumstance, but, that's why you plan to get there early and,
Yeah. Plan to get there early. And I think if the crew ever misses a program because they were dilly-dallying and they were late, your program's closed already. Well, because you're late, that's kind of like a kick in the pants for them. Like might be a wake-up call. Okay, now tomorrow we got to make sure we get there because we want to get to that program. So I think that's because I'm sure we've all had it. We missed a program because they were dilly-dallying on the trail. They weren't trying to make progress as fast as you only can make them go so fast. I mean, I'm not a fast hiker, and I don't think any of us are, but there are times when you have to say, hey, we have to go a little faster because we want to make our program. And the other positive thing is, let's say you go into a camp and you're not supposed to do a program. You get there early enough and the program's open and they got slots available. You can always ask for that slot. The worst thing they're going to tell you is, no, I can't have it.
The worst thing they can do is say no.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I guess
thing.
I'm for the first time advisors, how do they, what things influence your time on the trail and your ability to hit the time frames? We got to be somewhere at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like
So
how many miles is it from where I'm at right now to where I need to be at 10 o'clock? What kind of terrain do I have? Am I going to be going uphill? Am I going to be climbing a peak? Am I going downhill?
one of the real downsides of the way that I have done treks the past several times is, I kind of go as a Philmont free agent, where if a crew is short on an adult and I'm available, they can kind of bring me in even at the last minute. Like I joined a crew a few years ago, 3 days before arrival at Philmont. And when you do that, it means that you're not there for any of the preparation and training, and you have no idea how the crew leader has been prepped. And I think that for scouting in general, for any leadership position, our role as adults isn't to dictate or lead. It's to give them the tools they need to be able to do the job appropriately. And for a crew leader, I like to think that the biggest thing that we can do for them is, help them understand that they're looking out for their crew. They are responsible for everyone in their crew. Like they're not to be a dictator. They're to be like, they're watching out for everyone. And part of doing that is anticipating what's coming. So if you can instill in them the idea that planning is the best way to make sure that surprises and hiccups don't derail what you're doing, then, early in training and in prep hikes and in discussions with the crew leader, helping them understand things like, maybe leading questions like, okay, it's midday. We're, by the time we get to dinner, do we know who is navigator tomorrow, so we can be sure they know to use any free time that evening to figure out what the path is tomorrow, so that we get up knowing where we're going. Like by the time we go to bed, we should probably have that sorted. And, has the duty roster been shared with people ahead of time? Letting people know in advance. Like I think a good leader is always a day to a half a day ahead of what's happening, so that they can, everyone has a responsibility, right? So they can remind people, hey, remember tonight, we need to see what the route for tomorrow is going to be, so that we get up in the morning knowing where we're going and what we're doing, that kind of thing. Who's in charge of water tonight? When are you going to have that done? Their job isn't dictating. It's, asking questions and trying to make sure that everyone's thinking about the task that they need to get done.
Yep. And what we do is talking about the map. We always go over it as a crew the night before. We make the navigator, he's holding the map. He puts it down. He sets it up, and then the crew leader talks about, okay, everybody knows where we're going. We're going from here to here. Here's the trail we're taking. If we come to a T, we're going to make a left and all that stuff like that. That way everybody knows, hey, we're leaving. We're going out this direction. Look at your camp map, figure out where you're going, where you have to be in the morning. And that way everybody knows in the morning, throughout the day, where they're going. Nobody's lost. Lost as in, hey, I don't know what we're doing.
But do you do that on the trail?
No, we do it the night before, just to make sure everybody knows about it, where we're going. We're going from A to B. And then if we stop for a break and the navigator pulls the map out, that's time for everybody to stop and look at the map. And anytime they stop and look at the map, it's the whole crew looking at the map.
I would propose that be done next week with your crew.
Sure.
You know,
So,
and make some notes, and the advisor may, have a page for each day and stick them in a Ziploc so they don't, when you get to Philmont, what did we talk about for day 3? This is going to be a rough day, and all of that allows you as the advisor to advise and work with the crew leader to give him the opportunity to show leadership. But I would suggest or propose that you could do a lot of that planning before you leave home, and not necessarily even on a shakedown hike, just, have a crew meeting and so forth. And look then, and Sal, you and I talked about it. What are the alternatives? What is, there's page 2 of your itinerary, which is, a suggested route, but how do we really want to go? Or if there's 2 or 3 ways, which way are we going to go?
That's where the Philmont book comes in handy. If you have a chance to get your hands on a copy before you even get to Philmont, you can read up on different camps, different routes, what there is to see. You can have a good idea of what you want to try to do.
Yeah.
There's 3 different ways to go from Poniel to Poblano.
Yeah.
And one's really easy and 2 are better views.
Yeah. So,
and which route you take depends upon the time available. What do you want to do? I mean, if we got to be to Poblano at a certain time for program, hey, we only have one choice, the shortest route.
Well, if you're taking your little burro, buddy, you only have one choice.
Yeah. Is that what you call your slow advisor?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I've been called worse. So, just a time check. It looks like we have nearly exhausted our hour. So I'll remind anyone out there following along live with us, feel free to ask any last questions. If people hadn't noticed, we've posted probably 8 or 10 clips from last month. So we record these live, and then they're available on the Camping Gear Report webpage, because we still don't have a way to link that back to Facebook like we used to do years ago before Facebook shut that down. But I've been chopping those into little interesting snippets and putting them up as YouTube shorts. So there's all sorts of video coming out of these where people can watch them later if that's interesting to them. And that's something new that we're doing. I spent the afternoon scheduling things out through close to the end of the month, and then I'll mix in some clips from this program for the next few weeks. I'll schedule a bunch of them through to get us until the next one, which will be on hopefully it'll be on the second Tuesday of the month at 9 p.m. Eastern time, because while Philmont is not in Eastern time, I am. So that's
we got a good question here. The Family Guy posted, how do you deal with a difficult adult during the trek?
Ooh.
What's he mean by difficult? Difficult is wanting to, does that adult difficult mean that adult wants to be the crew leader, or difficult of not carrying his own weight, or not participating, or just being another name for a burro?
As a former staffer, as a co adult advisor to somebody who's being difficult, you try to pull that person aside and maybe have the discussion. Oftentimes, what I see happening is the adult is getting out of their lane and trying to be too much of a crew leader or run things his way. And I've seen adults make really bad decisions for the rest of the crew that affect the rest of the crew in that capacity.
He says giving.
In the worst case scenario, you need to get, if you're at a staff camp, you get some of the staff involved. And I've even had situations as a staff member where we've had an adult that was out of line, and we had to call in a chaplain to and they have the skill set to deal with those situations. Worst case scenario, you get you're going to get Matt Hart or Tim Rossisen out there, and they're going to deal with it. And you just don't want Tim Rossisen out dealing with your crew, because he's going to deal with it.
Oh.
And that's that.
Yeah, that's that. That's
Yeah,
true.
I think trying to have the private discussion, and if that's not going there, maybe it even becomes an issue for thorns and roses.
Yeah. So I think that with adults, what I have seen work best is for hopefully the lead advisor early in the shakedown process, or even early in the planning process, to pull all the adults aside and say, listen, here's the expectation of timing. For the very first meetings, we'll be living the edge method. We're going to explain, we're going to demonstrate, but then moving forward, we're going to transition that over to the youth leadership to do things, and we're going to fade back, and then we are going to hold each other accountable. And again, often with your buddy, like I had this, man, a few treks ago, I was with a trek where I didn't know the adults very well at all, because I just met them, but we talked about it early on and literally said to each other, we have to hold each other accountable, because we know that on any given day, at any given time, at least one of us is going to be cold, tired, sore, frustrated, or otherwise pissed off. And we have got to keep each other in line. And when you see someone starting to lose it, pull them aside. And we all know that it's going to happen. We're all going to be the one getting pulled aside. We're all going to have to pull someone aside. So don't get mad about it. When you see us looking at you, get your act together. We're going to call each other out and hold each other accountable. And that worked beautifully. That said, this is still the crew that at one point, one of the dads got really frustrated at what he thought was some poor navigator work that day. Turns out we had a navigator. We didn't have a navigator. That dude knew what was going on. That scout had us pointed the right direction. Dad thought he was reading the map wrong, sent us 1.5 miles up a hill the wrong direction. And he was the model advisor the rest of the trip. He felt terrible because one of the youth was having some issues that day, and he added 1.5 miles up and then another 1.5 miles back down on top of the fairly long day we had coming. So, we like to set those expectations early so we can avoid doing that to each other, or especially to the youth while we're out there. Sounds like some great advice. Well, we do that occasionally. Often, this advice, you get what you pay for here, right?
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Speaking of pay raise, we need a pay raise.
Yeah, dude, double. You've done a lot of these. I'm doubling your rate for the lives. All right.
Just pay me as much. Just double what you
Jeff,
paid
can you hear me now?
Hey.
Right here. All right. Welcome.
There you go.
Yeah,
Finally.
now we're about to shut down. We got to hear from you.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
We need
Y'all
last
I
words.
tried to get in on with the phone because that's what I had at the time. And the option to turn the microphone on just wasn't there for some weird reason.
Yeah, it happens.
That's okay. We made it finally, though. But I think
I
everybody.
would like to pop up next time and discuss the growing trend it seems to be with some crews to like to view Philmont as being like a Survivor episode, and they think that they can vote off crew members and advisors on the trail.
I've not heard of
I
that.
saw that several times last year.
Ooh,
Really? Oh, wow. That's a
Yep.
new one.
Ooh.
And we're seriously trying to get staff to call in and have people pulled off the trail.
For just because they. I just lost everything.
I don't know what happened, but it
Wow.
reset mid Brett was mid sentence, and the whole thing just reset, and it knocked all of us off the screen. So
We all got voted off the internet.
it wasn't me.
Yeah, we
this
all
time.
got voted. Brett was talking about voting people off, and he voted us all
Yep.
off.
Wow.
No, I spent a week as a visiting forester again last summer, and on 2 occasions, I saw advisors basically try to set up a voting situation, and they were literally trying to vote off their slowest hikers.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, if they fell off the slowest, I'd be gone the first day.
Mm.
Yep.
I'm
So
not fast, I can say that
it
right
made for some very unique crew dynamics to have to try to work through. So
Yeah. So
I never heard that one.
you know what? I want to build on that. I know we're over our hour, but this is a good topic. So I want to talk about something that happened. Oh, what was it? 4 years ago, maybe. I was with a crew that I didn't know very well. I had done a couple shakedown hikes with them, but they were a few hours away from me, so I didn't know them. I just showed up for a couple shakedowns and then was able to fly with them to get out there. But I knew enough to know that the one kid didn't seem to want to be there, and he was doing everything he could to try to get sent home. And I did see the crew pretty much decide, like, if they were given the option to vote that one youth off, they would have done it. And that youth would have been thrilled because he was trying to get sent home. Like, he was actively doing everything he could to annoy everyone and to try to get them to say, no, you can't do this anymore. We're sending you home. But I can't imagine, aside from that, if someone's actually not actively trying to get sent home, especially adults acting like, trying to get rid of people. That's rough.
Yeah. Well, we'll just say that the camp director had to spend over 4 hours consulting with and had to have their own campfire with his crew. And then the following day, they decided that they would send a commissary run and leave half their crew with us, and tried to tell us that, logistics has already approved this. Yeah, and that they were going to leave there with one leader because we were there to count as their 2 deep leadership. And so we had to sit on site for over 3 hours waiting for them to get back.
Wow.
Oops.
Yep.
Yeah. So the way to get around finding yourself and your crew in a situation like that is to prepare appropriately. And one of the things I'll toss out there is, and I'd love to hear, Sal, because you do contingents, and Darrel, where you may not really know everyone, right? They're from your general geographic area, but they're not like all people from your troop that you've known since they were Weeblos, So do you have any kind of contract that you put in front of people that says, if you're going to sign up for this and take a spot on the crew, then here's what you're committing to. And it involves preparation to be sure that you're ready and, mentally prepared, physically prepared, that kind of thing. How do you set those expectations so that you don't get on the trail and then find out you have someone who shouldn't be there?
We don't do contracts because I've never done a contract. I know troops and crews that do contracts. We do something different here because we have, depending on how many crews we have, every crew has a practice hike every month. That's required. But we also have a contingent hike every month. So what that means is, let's say you're in crew 1 and you can't make your cruise hike that Saturday because you got a scouting event to go to. Somewhere in that month, you're going to have a contingent hike where anybody the contingent can show up and do a practice hike. So you can do both if you want to, but you're required to do one of those two every month. So that kind of helps. And we're in a little unique situation. We have a donor that gives us money for the kids' travel, and he kind of put stipulations on it. We kind of treat it like a merit badge. You've got to do so many practice hikes to get this scholarship. I think this year it's 4. You have to do a minimum of 4 practice hikes with your crew to qualify for the scholarship. So at least we know we're getting 4 out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to do the hikes small. Excuse me? Can we hear everybody? And we try to do, when we do the contingent hikes, we start off with small mileage and small weight, and you work your way up to full packs and longer. We try not to do more than 10, 15 miles because, again, we're Florida, so we're flat. So 15 miles in Florida is easy with a full pack compared to Philmont.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had a comment that I wanted to kind of bring attention to. I had it on the screen earlier. Advisor coffee hour could be helpful to allow an adult a time to decompress at the end of the day. And that is referring to when you're at a staffed camp or, adjacent to a staff camp where you're allowed to go there for their kind of evening program, where they'll have typically something hot, especially if it's been cooler and people are cold. Maybe like a coffee or a hot cider, and they'll generally put something like cookies out. And that's what I go for. I go for the coffee and the cookies, or at least I did for years. And then at some point I realized, this is to get the adults away from the youth for a little bit so the youth can decompress and do their thing, and the youth leadership can be in charge. And to give the adults some other adults they can talk to and maybe vent a little bit, potentially, if they need to, or bounce ideas off of people. So I want to build on what we heard a little while ago about a camp director spending a lot of time. And the scenario that I mentioned with the youth that wanted to go home, a camp director, and of all things, a trading post employee, both dove into this crew and really helped talk people off the ledge, so to speak, which I think quite literally could have meant talk people out of pushing that scout off of a ledge, which I think was a legitimate possibility. I don't say that lightly. It is in jest, but it's also kind of like, I saw people eyeing him when he's near the edge once or twice, and I wouldn't have put it past them because they were getting a little ticked off. So, but yeah, the people in the backcountry do have some conflict resolution and crew dynamics training that they can bring to bear to help kind of talk people through, setting aside some of the frustration, making rational, productive decisions that are going to help move things forward in a way that doesn't involve paperwork afterwards. So, yeah, certainly.
I like Sal. I've never had, people sign a contract and so forth. That brings along a whole lot of other headaches. How do you enforce it? And, how do you interpret that they really did violate, one of the, items or whatever. But a lot of it comes back to a little bit what you said, Jeff, holding each other accountable, and hopefully through, the several months of your overall preparation, not just the hikes, but all of your crew meetings and preparation. You've had a chance to figure out who that culprit might be, and also set the expectations. Hey, everybody's going to have a bad day, and you got to help that person, because tomorrow may be your bad day.
Yeah, that's a huge point. With that, if anyone has anything else, speak now or hold on to it till next month.
I was just going to say on that last point about advisors coffee is sometimes it's a time to talk to other advisors, where they've been, where they're going, maybe get some tips about the trail that way or going this way, or the fun thing to do here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Hey, they may be coming from where you're going. They say, hey, go to campsite, whatever. It's a better campsite than this one. I mean, I always tell the adults, it's your time to get away from the kids, and the kids' time to get away from us. We all.
Hey, and the last thing I'm going to say, on that deal with the advisors coffee, I love what you are saying, but just keep in mind, please have some grace when you're dealing with the staff. When you're talking to an 18 to 22-year-old, I'm just for our perspective kid, trying to work through crew dynamics, and yes, trying to talk to guys in their late 40s and 50s, guess what? Sometimes we don't have the most grace when trying to work with these younger staff. And all I'm going to ask is, please have some grace with them.
Yeah, I got the unique, and I agree with that. The staff, they got a job to do, and let them do it. But advisors coffee and find out what other crews are doing. This year we're there on day 2. My advisors coffee, and on day 3 and 4, there's not going to be a lot of experience coming down the trail.
Yeah.
You can ask yourself.
Yeah.
More cookies for Mr. T.
Yeah. And next year we're actually there on day 1.
Wow.
Man, aren't you lucky?
I've had a crew ask me if I would go with them, and I think they're there on day 1. They're either day 1 or 2. They're super early. And for my schedule, it actually doesn't work bad. But for the other things that I do around base camp, that's, I try to get around and meet with a lot of the senior staff and interview people and get video of different things. None of that's ready. No one wants to deal with me at any point in the summer, but specifically when they're frantically trying to get the first few weeks of people out on the trail, I need to go harass people later when they've figured out what they're doing. So, yeah. But I'm hoping that this year we can retire the series that we unfortunately started last year called Advisors Behaving Badly, where we would talk about how we were getting reports back from staff members. Like even the first week that crews were out on the trail, I was getting notes from staff saying, oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe what this advisor just did. We saw them do this. And so we did a lot of active coaching to try to set the expectation with the adults that come through the Philmont Trek Talk group that they are going to, like, I love the words you use, Brett, with, show some grace. We got to be the adults out there. And sometimes that means just shut your mouth. And even if you think that staff member is wrong, if no one's going to get hurt, who cares? Maybe you're wrong and they're doing exactly what they're supposed to. Maybe they made a mistake, but if no one's getting hurt by it, just shut up and let it go. Don't show your backside and cause problems, right? Set a good flow. Yep. You're there to hang out and have fun and prevent Lord of the Flies and be the cool head in a true emergency, not to be the crew leader or, tell the staff how to do their job. So, yeah, as long as everyone follows that, I think everything should be good. So, with that, I think we're going to wrap up for the evening. Thank you to our esteemed panel for being here. Really appreciate all of you. Thanks for the various folks who made comments, asked questions, gave us some food for thought there in the comments. Thanks to everyone in the Philmont Trek Talk Prep News and Info group on Facebook for everything that you do, the questions you ask, the massive amounts of discussion. I love the great answers that are given. I'm entertained by some of the not so great answers, but I love the discussion that happens so that everyone can kind of get their perspective out and sort through what works for them and what doesn't work for them and all of that. If anyone who is listening is going to be out at Philmont for Phil Break Session 2, please say hi, and we can hang out and cause trouble and bring bail money for me because I tend to need it. So until
Don't
next
call
time.
us. We're not bailing you out.
Why?
Antlers
We don't
out,
like you.
everybody.
Yeah.
Antlers out.
Yeah. So I think we're done. And I should shut it
Yep.
down. Is anybody not ready?
Make it so.
Icon.